Namaste. We now commence with the last of the darshana, the sixth darshana, Vedanta Darshana. Out of the six darshanas or systems of philosophy which accept the authority of Vedas, the basic scripture of Hinduism, the last two, the Mimamsa and the Vedanta systems, are directly connected with them. Whereas the Mimamsa tries to reconcile the various Vedic texts that seem to give different directions with regard to the same ritual system, the Vedanta system attempts to make out a coherent philosophy of the Brahman or the God, the Absolute, from apparently conflicting statements in the Upanishad. Now let us see what is the Prasthana. The Vedanta system, as its very name implies, deals with the Upanishads, which are the end portions, that is Anta means end, of the Vedas, and also contain the essence, that is Anta or core or essence of the same. The system itself is based on three canonical works, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads are called Shruti Prasthana, the Brahma Sutras Nyaya Prasthana, and Bhagavad Gita Smriti Prasthana, the three together being termed Prasthanatraya. Prasthana means a school of philosophy or a religion. Now let us see what we are going to cover in this narration. We will briefly touch upon the role of Upanishad in Vedanta philosophy. We'll little bit elaborately see what are the Brahma Sutras, brief synopsis of each of the 4 chapters, and philosophy of Badarayan, the author of Brahma Sutra. Though a very large number of works going by the name Upanishad are available in print today, Orthodox tradition accepts only a handful of them, 12 to 14, as ancient and authoritative. The entire edifice of Vedanta system of philosophy depends upon these few Upanishads. Let us see what are the teachings of these Upanishads. These may be, broadly speaking, be classified as Brahman as the ultimate cause of this world, nature of Brahman, evolution of this world and its character, nature of living beings as individual soul, their relationship with Brahman, their involvement in the world as well as their transmigration, the final goal of life, the disciplines that help in reaching the goal, and the nature of attainment of the final goal. The Brahma Sutras, in fact, that the Upanishad as extant today, do not give coherent picture of these various subjects discussed in them. Since tradition and orthodoxy deem the entire body of the Upanishads as one canonical scripture, the Shruti, it became necessary to reinterpret and reorganize their teachings so as to give them a more coherent look. It was exactly this that Badarayan attempted, and the result was the Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras derive its name from the fact that it deals chiefly with Brahman, God the Absolute, as described in the Upanishads in all its aspects. It is also known by other names as given in the next slide. The Vedanta Sutras, since the subject matter is that of Vedanta or the Upanishad. Second is Shariraka Sutras, since the Atman living in the Sharira or the body is dealt with in the work. Third, Uttar Mimamsa Sutras as opposed to the Purva Mimamsa Sutras, since it does Mimamsa or enquiry into the Uttar or latter part of the Vedas. Next, the Bhikshu Sutra. Since it is specifically recommended for study by the Bhikshus or Sannyasis. Let us see about the author. Badarayan, the author. Nothing is known about Badarayan, the author of this celebrated work. Traditionalists identify him with Vyasa, the author of Mahabharata and the Puranas. The work is generally assigned to the period 500 BC to 200 BC by the Indian and some Western scholars. However, there are other scholars who consider the two to be different and assign Badarayan to the period about 200 AD. What is the Brahma Sutras? The work Brahma Sutras is in 4 adhyayas or chapters. Each adhyaya is divided into 4 padas or quarters. So one chapter divided into 4 padas. Each pada is comprises of the adhikaranas or topic. So adhyaya chapter, then in chapter 4 padas, and in padas there are adhikaranas, which are composed of sutras. So total number of adhikaranas and the sutras according to the Adi Shankaracharya, the earliest commentator, is 191 adhikaranas and 555 sutras respectively. So there are a lot of variations in the work. The variations are seen in this number as also in the reading themselves. These are due to splitting of one sutra into 2, fusing 2 sutras into 1, or adding the last word of sutra to the beginning of the next. For such variations in the readings, such alterations in the structure of the sutras have contributed to divergent interpretations also. Not only that, divergent views have also arisen due to one school considering a particular sutra as stating the Purva Paksha, that is prima facie view, the objection or doubt, and another school accepting the same sutra as the Siddhanta, the theory propounded by the author of the work. So let us see the Adhikarana. So as already stated, each pada of the various adhyaya comprises several adhikaranas or topics. An adhikarana must have 5 parts connected in graded manner. So each adhikarana, so adhyaya, then pada and adhikaran, which consisted of sutras. So they have a independent topic. So they consist of Vishaya or a topic, Vishaya or Samshaya or doubt, Purva Paksha or opponent's view, Siddhanta or established conclusion, and Sangati or connection between the different sections. So Adhikaran should consist of these 5 parts in a graded manner. So each pada of So true to the names, the principal text, the Brahma Sutra, deals primarily with Brahman as the highest truth, the only independent truth, by realizing which a person transcends transmigratory existence. The one and only authority for the existence of Brahman, as also for its true nature, is the Shruti, the Jnana Kanda, the part, the section dealing with the knowledge of Brahman or Atman of the Vedas comprising the Upanishads. The knowledge of Brahman can never be obtained by logic and reasoning, which depend upon the puny human intellect. Since the intellect depends upon the knowledge gained by the senses, and since Brahman, the pure consciousness that he is beyond the purview of senses, the Shruti as revealed to the Rishis is only source of knowing them. So there are some Upanishadic statements. Various Upanishad statements that form the basis of the philosophy of Brahma Sutra. Since some of these statements appeared to contradict one another, Badarayan had to undertake the unenviable task of collating them to weave out a homogeneous philosophy. While doing it, he naturally chose the most ancient of the Upanishads. Which are those Upanishads? The statements of which Badarayan has discussed in these sutras. There is no direct indication in the sutras themselves since they are too iconic. For this, we have to depend almost entirely on the Bhashyakaras or the commentators who, fortunately for us, are more or less unanimous in deciphering them. So, let us see from which are these Upanishad statements and from there where they have come. In the first 31 Adhikaranas, as per Adi Shankaracharya, the major statements that form the Vishaya or Vishayavakya subject matter are from the following Upanishads, with the number of such statements noted against them. So, from the Chandogya Upanishads, 41 statements have come. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, 5 statements have come. Kathopa Upanishad, 4 statements. Taittiriya Upanishad, 2 statements. Mundaka Upanishad, 3 statements. Prashna Upanishad, 1 statement. And Kausitaki Upanishad, 2 statements. Apart from these sentences taken from Svetashvatara, the Aitareya and the Jabala Upanishads have also been discussed. Let us see now what is the influence of other authors. While analyzing the purport of the various passages from the Upanishads, Badarayan has quoted the opinions of other teachers also. They are Atreya, Ishmarthya, Adulomi, Krishna Janani, Kashkritnasha, Jaimini and Badari. Almost all these names appear in the earlier works like Shrautu Sutras and Grahasutras. It is likely that some preceded Badarayan and others like Jaimini might have been his contemporaries. Though he differed from them, he has not criticized their views, probably because they were also Vedantins of repute, who had accepted the Upanishads as the primary authority and Brahman as the highest truth. Now let us see the chapter-wise brief synopsis of each chapter. So first chapter, the contents of the work may now be summarized. The first chapter comprises of 134 sutras in 39 adhikaranas, has been called Samanvaya Dhyaya. Since its attempts to harmonize Samanvaya, that is harmony, the principles deal within the Upanishads. The work starts with the famous sutra Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, therefore, the desire to know Brahman. Since the knowledge or experience of Brahman leads to moksha or freedom from transmigration, it is very necessary to have a correct understanding of Brahman. Keeping this in view, the treatise deals with the various statements in the well-known Upanishads concerning Brahman. Brahman is he from whom this world came into existence, in whom it inherits and to whom it returns at the end of cycle of creation. The only source for the knowledge of this Brahman is the Shruti or the Upanishad. It is Brahman alone who is the ultimate cause of this world and not Prakriti or Pradhana as the Sankhya conveys. Since it is insentient, that is, Prakriti is insentient, an insentient cause can never think or will and produce such a perfectly designed universe. This Brahman is Anandamaya, full of bliss. He is transcendent as well as immanent in this world, including the Jivatmas or the individual souls. The being of light that exists in Aditya or the sun and one and our own eyes is also Brahman. He is also designated as Akasha, Prana, Bhuma and Akshara. The being described as Angushta Matra Purusha, that is, the person of the size of the thumb, is also really Brahman and not the Jiva or the individual soul. So also does the word Atman refer to him. Badarayan quotes in this first chapter opinions of Ashmaratha, Adulomi and Kashkaratsna in the fourth pada of this chapter. Ashmartha thinks that the Jivatmas are both different and non-different from the Brahman or Paramatman, even as the sparks of fire are both identical with and different from the fire. Adulomi opines that the Jiva are different from Brahman in the state of bondage, but become one with him in the state of liberation. Kashkaratsna, however, considers the two to be identical, since it is Brahman that has become the Jiva also. Though the views of these teachers are stated, Badarayan does not give his own opinion or preference. The last part of this chapter asserts that Brahman is both Upadana Karan, that is material cause, and Nimitta Karan, that is efficient cause of this world. Now let us now move on to the second chapter. This chapter is designated as Avirodha Adhyaya. This chapter, with 157 sutras distributed among 47 adhikaranas, applies itself to dispel any virodha or contradiction that may confront this philosophy of Vedanta. Vedanta is not opposed to Smruti, that is secondary scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, and Apastamba, Dharma Sutras, and Tarka, that is logic and reasoning. The opposition of schools like that of Sankhya is fallible. There is no contradiction among the various statements in the Upanishads dealing with subjects like creation. This is the burden of the teaching of this chapter. Out of the several non-Vedantic systems of philosophy that existed during Badarayan's time, the Sankhya system was the most powerful. Hence, it has been given special attention while refuting other schools. One of the important factors discussed here in the relationship between the Karana, the cause, and the Karya, the effect, the Sankhyan view known as Satkaryavad states that the Karya or the effect pre-exist. Sat is existing in the Karana or cause. So, this is the major philosophy of Sankhyan view. Satkaryavad, that is, the effect pre-exists in the cause. In the process of creation, it just gets manifested and is not newly produced, since something real can never be produced from unreal. On the other hand, Vaisheshika school accepts the Asatkaryavad, that is opposite of Satkaryavad of Sankhya, according to which the previously existent effect, that is Asat, is newly produced. In the former case, that is in Asatkaryavad, the effect pre-exists in the Upadana Karan, in Sankhya, the material cause, and the latter Nimitta Karan, the efficient cause, is constant. Badarayan accepts these views partially and declares on the basis of the Upanishads that Brahman is Abhinimitta and Upadana Karan, that is both material and efficient cause of this world. Hence, the world is non-different from Brahman. The objection that this world consists of insentient objects and hence cannot be the product of the sentient Brahman does not hold good, since the Shruti, the highest authority in such matters which are beyond the powers of the ordinary human intellect, declares it to be so. Brahman has no selfish motive in creating this world, since he is self-contented. There is neither partiality nor cruelty in the creation, since justice is meted out to the jivas according to their karmas or desert. The very purpose of creation of this world is to help the jiva to attain ananda or bliss by getting established in Brahman, the bliss, absolute. Apart from the Sankhya school, the other schools like those of the Vaisheshikas, the Buddhists, the Jainas, the Pashupatas, and the Bhagavatas like the Pancharatras have also been critically examined and dismissed. Let us now move on to the third chapter. The third chapter is called Sadhana Adhyaya, and it is the longest chapter with 186 sutras spread over 67 adhikaranas. Though called thus, the topics discussed are diverse. They are transmigration of the jiva into other bodies, dream creations of the jiva, experiencing the deserts of the karma by the will of Ishvara or God. Various vidyas or meditations mentioned in the Upanishads and clarifications regarding them, collating of a vidya when described differently in different Upanishads, knowledge of the Atman or Brahman as independent of karmas or rituals, certain clarifications regarding the rituals and duties prescribed for the various ashramas, that is, stages of life like brahmacharya or sannyasa, as also prayaschittas, that is, expiations, and so on. Let us now move to the last fourth chapter known as Phala Adhyaya. This chapter is the shortest with only 78 sutras and 38 adhikaranas. The main topic discussed in this chapter is the journey of the jiva after death to Brahmaloka by the Arsiradi Marga or Devayana, the path of light of gods. One who is interested in moksha or liberation has to practice Shravana, that is, listening to the scriptures, describing the nature of the Atman and Brahman, and allied disciplines until the realization. The various upasanas or meditations described in the Upanishads aid the jiva in the process of attaining moksha. On attaining Brahma Jnana or knowledge of Brahman, Sanchit karma, that is, karma accumulated over several lives, gets destroyed. Agami karma, that is, karma done after realization, is rendered fruitless. The prarabdha karma, the karma that has already started this body and yielding results, has to be exhausted only by experiencing it. The jiva who have practiced several spiritual disciplines like tapas, austerity, shraddha, devoted faith, and brahmacharya, that is, celibacy, as also vidyas like meditation on Brahman, will travel after death by Arsiradi Marga or the path of light, comprising light, day, bright fortnight, and so on, and reach the Brahmaloka from which there is no return. There are divine guides called Ativahikas who take the jiva through the various stations of light to the Brahmaloka. Anomalies in the descriptions concerning the details of the Arsiradi Marga have been set right through proper interpretations and argument. The work ends with a declaration, Anavrittiha Shabdat, repeated twice for emphasis. That is, there is no return since the scriptures declare so, meaning the jiva reaching the Brahmalok will not return to this mundane existence. Descriptions of the nature of the Mukta Purusha, the liberated soul, are given at the appropriate places. The views of Jaimini, the founder of Mimamsa, Adulomi and Badari in this regard have also been cited. Now let us now see, after this synopsis, what are the views of the Badarayan, the author of Brahma Sutras. Badarayan wrote the Brahma Sutras to systemize the teachings of the Upanishads into a coherent philosophy. However, since the sutras are short and terse, it becomes quite a job to find out what exactly is his own philosophy as revealed through his work. Even so, with the help of sutras, which seem to be more unambiguous than the others, an attempt may now be made to portray the same. So, according to Shruti or Vedas, what are the Pramanas? The one and only Pramana, that is source of knowledge, that Badarayan accepts while expounding the Vedanta system is the Shruti or the Vedas, especially the Jnana Kanda part of it, that is the Upanishad. He considers the words of the Vedas as Nitya or eternal. Logic and reasoning, which can always be unsettled by superior ones, can never be realized upon in determining the transcendental truth like the ultimate cause of the world. Smruti or secondary scriptures like the Manusmriti and the Mahabharata, including the Bhagavad Gita, can be depended upon in so far as they do not contradict the Shruti. The Shruti declares Brahman as the origin of the universe, the primary, no, the only truth. In fact, the very definition makes him the uncaused cause, the ground of sustenance and involution of the world. He is both the material and the efficient cause of the world. He needs no external implements for assistance and can transform himself even as milk is transformed into its product. He evolves himself into Akasha, that is ether, from where all the other elements are produced, Vayu, air and other products, by wielding the same, and he is associated with every stage of creation up to the last. Since it is Brahman that has evolved into this world is non-different from him, even as an woven cloth is non-different from the same which was earlier in thread form. The activity of creation is a leela or effortless sport of Brahman, but since it is done as per the karmas of the unredeemed jivas, one should not attribute partiality or cruelty to him, since the good and evil that exists here. Since it is Brahman that has evolved into this world is non-different from him, even as an unfolded cloth or woven cloth. The activity of as regards the jiva or individual soul, Badarayan defines him as a jna or knower, a being endowed with consciousness. He has no birth or death. He is eternal and atomic in size. Whether the jiva is an amsha or part of Brahman or his abhasa, that is reflection, has not been stated clearly, though the views of other Vedantins like Ashmarathya, Adulomi and Kashakartna have been given. Let us now see the relation between Jiva and Brahman according to the Brahma Sutras. The relationship between the Jiva and Brahma has been likened to the snake and its coiled up state, or light and its source. Thus, the question whether they are different or identical has been left unanswered. By meditation on Atman or Brahman leading to Jnana or experience of the same, the Jiva attains liberation. The Shrutis give equal importance to the performance of the karma or prescribed actions and tyaga or renunciation of the same, though the performance of the duties prescribed for the respective ashramas, that is stages of life, has been stressed even for the spiritual aspirant. The fruits of the various upasanas or meditations practiced by a jiva accrue to him by the grace of Ishvara, that is Brahman, as the ruler of the created world. On attaining the knowledge of Brahman, all the sanchita karma, that is accumulated part of past karma of the jiva, will be destroyed. He will live as long as the prarabdha karma, that is karma which is already fructified and the jiva came into being, will continue. But the karma done after attaining the knowledge will not affect. The jiva who has reached the acme of meditation while living will after death travel by the Arsi-Radhi Marga or Devayana, path of light or of the God, and reach Brahmaloka, from which there is no return to this world. There he will be one with Brahman, non-different from him. The various attributes predicted of Brahman get manifested in the liberated jiva. Chaitanya or consciousness, being his essential nature, is the course always there. Let us now conclude the narration on Vedanta. In conclusion, it can be affirmed that Badarayan in his sutras teaches a kind of Advaita, that is Brahma Advaita. He does not admit the existence of either the jivas or the world, or independent of or different from Brahman. Since he has accepted the Upanishads as the supreme authority, and since the other teachers like Badari, whom he has quoted, also did the same, he has not contradicted them. Both the views that Brahman is Nirvishesha, Chinmatra, Swarupa, pure consciousness without any attributes, and Savishesha, with attributes, seem to be acceptable to him. Obviously, he has tried to reconcile the various apparently conflicting views expressed in the Upanishads and explain them rather than formulate his own philosophy. Both the views that Brahman is Nirvishesha, Chinmatra Swarupa, that is pure consciousness without any attributes, and Savishesha, that is with attributes, seem to be acceptable to him. Obviously, he has tried to reconcile the various apparently conflicting views expressed in the Upanishads and explain them rather than formulate his own philosophy. Thank you for listening. In the next and the last narration of this series, we will see the important commentaries on the Vedanta philosophy. Namaste.